Hello friends, welcome to this video where we will discuss how to excel in group discussions. In a group discussion, the participants would be seated in an arrangement where each person can see all the others in the group. Not necessary that it has to be in a circular arrangement. It could be where the participants are seated around a long table, something like a boardroom table, because in many cases the B school interviews would happen in offices, like for example some of the commodity boards, for example coffee board office, tea board office and all that, or sometimes in hotels where again they would have a boardroom kind of an arrangement, maybe a U-shaped table. So typically an arrangement where all the participants can see each other. Now while you are in a group discussion, you should be in your formals. I've said this before, that is, the moment you step into the selection arena and then walk up to the desk where you present the interview call letter and then they scrutinize your certificates and all that, even at that moment, you have to be in your formals. And then from there on, for your essay writing or group exercise, case study, group discussion, interview, so throughout the process, you have to be in your formals. The usual pattern of group discussion is where the faculty would come and announce the topic and then give you some time to prepare, to note down points, something like 3 to 5 minutes. So use that time to note down points, think about the topic. Now, how do we generate points? We will discuss that in the second part of the video on group discussion. So let us first lay down the setting to the group discussion, how it happens. Now, when students go for the final round of the selection process, they would have gone through definitely some kind of training at some coaching institute where they would have been molded about how to present themselves in group discussions and interviews, how to use formal language, the behavioral pattern, the way of answering questions and all that. So what I'm saying is, when we step into the selection arena, we have a mask put on where we are trying to confine ourselves to the ideal way of behavior during the entire selection process. Now the profs at the B schools are extremely clever and they are trying to look through behind the mask to try and identify you. So they'll try and put you into situations which are slightly unnatural, which you did not expect. And then in that kind of a scenario, some of the candidates tend to crack and the real person comes out from behind the mask. For example, in a GD situation, the faculty can walk in and then take a look at you and say very innocently, you're all from various educational backgrounds, so I'm not too sure about what kind of topic I should give you. So why don't you people take some 5 minutes to discuss among yourself and decide on the topic that you want to have for a group discussion, and then you tell me and then we will have the GD. Now please understand that the moment he says this, the evaluation process has already started, because the faculty then is trying to see how you react to this kind of a situation. So then you will have suddenly the candidates looking at each other, how do we proceed from here, and then somebody would take the lead and suggest a topic. Now when you are in that kind of a situation and you want to suggest topics, suggestions would suddenly come in flying thick and fast. Why don't we talk about Indian economy? Why don't we talk about the problem with sports in India? Be sure that you come up with a topic, a sentence. Don't say statements like, why don't we discuss about the Indian economy? Why don't we talk about problem of sports in India? Put that into a very clear statement with clarity. For example, instead of saying, let us discuss about the Indian economy, say, can India sustain this high growth rate in the coming years? Or say, friends, why don't we discuss the key areas for India to focus on to drive the kind of growth which will take us to the path of a developed economy. So then there is more clarity to what you are saying, and it's a clear signal to the faculty, the evaluator, that one, you know how to react to an unnatural situation, take the initiative, and two, you have some idea about this particular topic. You're giving a hint to the evaluator that you know something about the Indian economy. You're prepared. React also to what somebody else is saying. Maybe somebody in the group is saying, let us discuss about sports or let us discuss about cricket. Seize the opportunity and convert that into a GD statement. For example, is cricket harming the growth of other sports in India? What normally would happen at the end of the given time in such a scenario is that the faculty would come in and say, okay, thanks for all the suggestions. Now, this is your topic, and he will spell out his own topic and the GD process would start. Now, I said that in most cases, the faculty would give you some time to prepare, to gather your thoughts, jot down points. The idea being that once the candidates have jotted down points, then there will be more depth in the discussion that will follow. So that is why some time is given to you. At the same time, sometimes you could get an extempore GD in the sense that a faculty would just come in, spell out the topic and then say, let's start. In such cases, mostly the topics would be of a general nature where the students would be able to start talking straight away. For example, how do we harness social media to bring in social reforms? Now, when the faculty announces the topic, it is always a good idea to write down the topic so that you don't have any confusion about the topic. In case you're not very clear, the faculty was not loud enough, you could say, please sir, ma'am, could you please repeat the topic? No harm in saying that. There was an interesting case in an IAFT GD where the topic given was, how can corporate farming help the Indian agricultural sector? Students hadn't noted down the topic on paper. The moment they heard corporate farming, they were looking at each other. Many of them did not know what corporate farming was. They did not expect that kind of a topic to come at IAFT. And then somebody took the lead to start the GD by talking about how cooperative farming can help the agriculture sector in India. Because when the topic was read out, this gentleman heard cooperative farming and then others followed. Because each one thought that possibly I have heard something incorrectly. What was given was actually cooperative farming. And the discussion went on about what is cooperative farming, how is the cooperative sector helping the Indian agricultural sector to grow and all that. And after the discussion was concluded, the faculty then told the participants that the topic was different. It was about corporate farming and what you discussed was cooperative farming in India. Usually the faculty would mention the time frame for the group discussion. It can be as short as 15 to 20 minutes with around 10 to 12 participants. But then the time frame and the number of participants can also change. For example, you can have group discussions which go up to about 30 minutes, sometimes even up to 40 minutes. So let us say 12 people or 14 people engaging in a discussion for 30 minutes and the topic is food subsidies are not reaching the poor. Then the participants should have an idea to discuss the subject at length to fill up 30 minutes. Otherwise, you can get caught out. At one of the top B schools in India, they follow a process where 3 possible GD topics are kept in separate envelopes in front of the students. The faculty then asks 3 different students to pick up each envelope and then read out the topic for the benefit of the participants. And then he asks the participants to discuss among themselves to decide which of the 3 topics they would like to discuss. So here again, the evaluation process has started at that point of time, wherein they need to then go into the merits and possibilities of these 3 topics, talk about the relevance to the current situation in India if it is an India-centric topic, or to the world if it's a world-centric topic. So talk about why it is very relevant, why we should focus more about that particular topic as compared to the other. It's like 3 issues are coming up in front of a management team and then they need to prioritize kind of. So which of the 3 topics would they like to discuss? And then after some time, the faculty will say, okay, please go ahead with the discussion of that topic. So here again, the faculty is looking at the kind of reactions coming from the students, the way in which they handle the situation, the way somebody takes the lead, the kind of group behavior which happens. So the GD process takes different forms. There are 5 important criteria to my mind which the evaluator would use to evaluate candidates during a group discussion. The first major aspect is knowledge about the given topic. For example, say the topic is The intrusion into the life and privacy of a citizen is a violation of our rights. Now, we need to know something about privacy, the right to privacy. How do we protect our privacy? What are the provisions for that? What does the law say? Is it a fundamental right? Is it written in the Constitution? Do we know about Article 21? What are the ways in which intrusion can happen? How do we protect that kind of intrusion, the possible intrusions? What if an intrusion happens, then what kind of remedial measures can be taken? Which agencies can we approach to seek redressal of a grievance, and so on. So it is extremely essential that we read a lot and prepare well on a range of possible topics by looking at various aspects in terms of social issues, in terms of issues regarding development of the country, the Indian economy, the world economy, about current affairs. New topics keep coming up every other day. So keep reading and preparing on a wide range of topics. The second aspect would be clarity of thought. How did the candidate come up with points? What was the thought process? How much did they understand the topic? To what extent? To what depth? With what kind of clarity? The third important aspect is communication skills. So once we have thought about the topic, come up with points in our mind, put them down on paper and all that, then how effectively, with clarity, with logic, do we spell out the points that we have, reach out to the participants, connect with what they are saying, try and sell our points, try and sell our points of view, react in a very positive way to what others are saying, drawing ideas from some of the things that the others say. So effectively communicating within the group with your fellow members is an extremely important thing. We are not talking about the quality of English that you're saying. We are talking about the logical way in which you put forth your points. People should understand what you're trying to say. You should be very effective, logical in the way you are presenting your points and connecting with your team members. Again, remember, I said this before, what you say is more important than how you say in a group discussion. Because your language skills have already been tested in the entrance exam, be it CAT, XAT or Advanced SNAP. So that is not the point. Okay, if you speak very good English, you have that kind of an advantage because it adds on to your confidence. But more than the quality of the language that you say, it is the kind of points that you bring forth. Because each logical idea that a person puts forth in the group discussion adds to the quality of the discussion which takes place, and the group as a whole comes out having done well in the discussion. We always talk about team skills as one of the skills in management, isn't it? So team skills play a very important role in a group discussion. Your group behavior, your good group behavior is one of the key elements or key evaluation points that the faculty is looking for. So connect well with your participants. You may be meeting almost all of them for the first time in your life. Maybe you might have some people whom you know already. And interesting fact is that over a period of time, as you go from interview to interview with multiple B schools, then you get to see some of the people whom you have met at another interview venue of another institute earlier, and you've already made friends with them. But other than that, you're meeting most of the people for the first time. So how well do you connect with them under the pressure situation of an evaluation of the group discussion done by the eagle-eyed faculties who are looking at you from outside? Keep your cool, put in good group behavior so that the group itself is seen to have done well. So you should contribute always to the positive outcome of the discussion in the group. The fifth major evaluation point is initiative. People talk about leadership skills in a group discussion. I would put it as initiative, taking the initiative. I wouldn't say leadership. Where, how do you take the lead? I mentioned a couple of unnatural situations where the faculty asked you to decide on what GD topic to have during the discussion, or give you a set of topics and then ask you to discuss and decide. How do you throw up more ideas, new ideas in the group? How do you pull back the group members from diverting from the topic into unnecessary talk? Guide the group along the right way. So, initiative. So, we talked about knowledge, clarity of thought, communication skills, group behavior, and initiative as the 5 major points of evaluation during a group discussion. Now, having understood the setting of a group discussion, let us move on to the guidelines of a group discussion, the do's and the don'ts. Let's say you're given a topic like the performance of the Indian stock market is a reflection of the health of the Indian economy. Now, if you look through the topic, it is one-sided, it is opinionated, because it says that the performance of the stock market is a reflection of the health of the economy. That is a bait given to you. Many students jump onto the bait and start by taking sides in the topic. Some would start by saying, I agree with the topic. Some would say, I don't agree with the topic. Don't do that. Never ever start the group discussion by saying, I agree with the topic or I don't agree with the topic. It's a criminal offense in GD terminology to do that. It's not a civil offense. It's a criminal offense to do that. Let me tell you why. Suppose about this particular topic, you have, let us say, 4 topics for and 5 against in your mind. You have noted down the points on paper in the preparation time given to you, and now you're ready for the discussion. And then suddenly somebody starts off by saying, I don't agree with this topic. And then there is this tendency to go along with him or against him. Don't do that. Then what happens is that you lose half the points that you've written down, isn't it? For example, you have 4 points for the topic and 5 points against. And let us say you decide to go against the topic. Then you're losing the 4 points that you have for the topic. Remember, this is a group discussion. Sorry to point fingers, but this is a group discussion. It's not a debate. In a debate, we go for or against. This is a group discussion, my friends. So, a topic is given to you. Even if it is baited by the faculty as a one-sided opinionated topic, look at all the aspects of the topic. Look at it from all angles and come up with all kinds of logical points and present them. So, if you have a total of 4 points for and 5 against, present all the 9 points. You don't have to jump in at the start to take sides. Then you lose half the points that you have prepared on. Plus, if you do that, you are seen as polarizing the group. Imagine you're starting out by saying, I agree with the topic or I don't agree with the topic. Then you're polarizing the group and causing harm within the group, because the group then starts to lose focus, and then people would start taking sides. Don't do that. A situation to be avoided in a GD is like, suppose there are 12 people in a GD and the total time given is 15 minutes, and the faculty says, start the discussion. A participant then says, friends, why don't we first each of us take 1 minute to spell out our views about the topic, and once we have all shared our views, then we will have an open discussion. Immediately jump in and say, instead of that, friends, let us keep to the format that we have been given. We understand that it's an open discussion. That is the best way to generate points where all of us have the leeway to come in and contribute points at any point of time. Let us have a freewheeling discussion where a lot of points come in. Why do I say that? Because suppose given that 15 minutes and each person takes 1 minute each, 12 minutes is gone. Now, do you really think that everybody would stick to that 1 minute? What would happen is that by the time it is the turn of the 10th person or the 11th person, time would have run out. So don't get into that situation. Students are often very eager to start the discussion because they feel that it shows leadership skills. Now start the discussion only if you are aware about what the topic is and you feel that you can give clarity and direction to the group by being the first one to speak. You should be able to lay the platform for the whole discussion. Extremely important. Otherwise, just jumping in, trying to take the lead for the sake of it can work against you. For example, let us look at the topic we mentioned earlier. Intrusion into the privacy and personal life of citizens is a violation of our rights. Now suppose somebody starts the discussion like this. Friends, this is a wonderful topic where we are talking about intrusion into our personal lives and privacy, and this is something of a big concern for everybody in this very intrusive world where we see a lot of intrusions happening on social media where the privacy of individuals get violated, and this is something that we need to take care of irrespective of what status we have in the society, irrespective of whether we're talking about somebody who's in a very powerful position in the society, holding high positions in the society, or somebody who is a common man and Aam Aadmi on the street. Everybody has the same status according to our constitution, and the right to privacy of every individual has to be protected in order that the well-being of every citizen of India is something which is taken care of, blah, blah, blah. Somebody starting like this. Did he speak English? Yes. Did it make sense? To whatever extent. Was it good enough in a group discussion? Absolutely no. Because there were no points. He was just going blah, blah, and blah. See, a lot of people tend to speak this way, and they feel that, filling up time by speaking in a GD is what is required. No. Your gift of the gab is not going to help. What helps is the kind of logical points that you bring into the discussion. It is not the extent of airtime that you control in a group discussion that is going to decide on whether you have done well or not. Even if you spoke for just a few seconds in the group discussion at several points, maybe you came in 2 or 3 times only in the group discussion, but each time you came in, you were heard and you brought in some valid points, that is a winning situation. Much, much better than the person who speaks just blah, blah, and just, tries to survive on his talking skills. I wouldn't say communication skills because he's not communicating anything. The gift of the gab, that is not going to work in a GD. Be very clear. If you are the person starting the discussion, be sure to mention at least a couple of points. Try to put in a couple of points. What normally would happen is by the time you are into your second sentence, somebody might come and cut you. So say, please let me complete. Your language during the group discussion should be formal. It should be polite but firm. While communicating, use those wonderful words in English like please, sorry, excuse me, but. For example, there would be situations where 2 or more people would start off at the same time or speak at the same time. So what you do is look at them and say, please let me complete. If they don't stop, again, please, do let me speak, do let me complete, please. Never try to outshout the other person. That is something which some people try to do, like 2 people start off at the same time and then one person tries to outshout or outlast the other person just because of his lung power. No, we are talking about acceptable group behavior. Say, please, excuse me, let me complete, please let me make my point. Sorry, but I have a different point of view. I agree with you in parts, but at the same time, so using but, you can just come in and say, but at the same time, we need to also look at some other points of view. Do that in a pleasing manner. That is why I keep saying in a polite, but with a voice that can be heard and firm. When you say, please let me complete, and then you move on, the other person stops, then make sure that you make your point very quickly. Again, in 1 to 2 sentences, because the other person who stopped for you is restless and wanting to come in. So always make your point very quickly. Most often you would not get the time to explain the point. But then if somebody else picks your point and adds on to it, then your point becomes much more valid, and that's fine. Cutting somebody while that person is making a new point, while he has not completed that point, could work against you. At the same time, once that person has mentioned that point, maybe completed that sentence, and then he's going into an explanation, then you can cut him. You can cut him and add on to what he has said by adding more flesh and muscle to that particular point. So there you're being clever, where you know that that is his point. You also have ideas to back up that particular point, so you come in. At the same time, cut people when they're beating around the bush, because they're wasting precious time of the group. The faculty would be thankful to you for doing that. In fact, when somebody is digressing, diverting, then you say, friends, I think we are deviating from the topic. Can we come back and discuss X, Y, something, some other points you throw up and talk about it. Can we discuss about X, Y, for example, and you start off. There again, you will get points for initiative and for good group behavior, because you have used polite language to pull the participants back into the center of the discussion. Never put down a participant by saying brash things like, how can you say this? What you're saying is wrong. Say, I have a different point of view. Sometimes you will find a person going on and you find it difficult to cut him. There's a beautiful word in English which is called but. You can say, I agree with you. You come in between and say, I agree with you, but I also feel that, and you actually then state the point which might be totally contrary to what the other person was saying. Now, you need to practice all this by being a part of different groups, where in each group the experience would be different. Let's say the same topic is given to 5 different groups. The groups might react to it differently because the people, their attitudes in each of the groups could be different. Never pick up an argument with any of the participants. We are in a world where tolerance levels are very low. On social media, there are people who tend to very wildly react to some posts which are made by some unknown random person sitting in some other corner of the world. It can happen in a group discussion that you don't like the attitude of a participant and you want to put him down. You feel that kind of an urge. No. Sometimes you get into an argument where he says something, you have a different point of view, totally opposite, and then you go back and forth, hammer and tongs at each other, and you are desperately trying to convince that other person, and you're wasting valuable time of the group. Don't do that. Don't try to convince that person in an argument. That person will never be convinced. You know that. Keep in mind, the person to be convinced is outside the group. Who are they? The faculty, the evaluators who are looking at your performance. So do all the right things and say all the right things to get selected. Sometimes your group discussion turns into a bit of a commotion, what we normally call as a fish market GD. For example, say there are 18 people in a 20-minute GD where the airtime is extremely limited per person, and there are 18 eager people waiting to come in, because most of them would have gone through structured training, done enough practice on group discussions. So everybody is anxious to contribute because the selection depends on it. So it can degenerate into commotion where nobody is heard, everybody is speaking at the same time, everybody is anxious to spell out all their points, exhaust all their points. So what you do in a group discussion like this is, in a fish market situation, never try to sell fish. What I mean is, do not add to the commotion. Do not add to the din and to the confusion. What you need to do is to clearly understand that you're not going to be hurt if you just join in the commotion, because you would not be hurt by the very crucial person, the evaluator, who is sitting outside and listening to your group discussion, but he cannot hear anything. So what you do in this kind of a situation is, don't get too anxious. Understand that it is a very difficult situation where you may not get all your points in, but you wait for certain very brief few seconds of moments, because everybody has a limit to one's lung power. So there would be a few seconds of gap here and there where you need to come in and state your point very quickly, extremely quickly, maybe in half or 3/4 of a sentence. How do you do that? You need to practice. You need to be smart to seize those kind of moments, because then you would be heard. The faculty would understand that it is a very difficult situation where points are not being heard, and here is somebody who's not adding to the confusion, making things worse, but waiting for appropriate moments to come in and try to make a point. And the faculty would understand the point that you're trying to say, even if you're not able to complete that sentence. If you are able to give a semblance at least of that point within a sentence that you might be able to complete. So the point should come in straight away. That is what you do. You also would try to bring in some sense of order in the group by saying that, friends, we are not being heard. So let us just calm down. Things might calm down for maybe a few seconds and then it will go back to the old state. But still, you tried and you might get points for trying to bring some order in the group. You can be smart in saying, please let us try to calm down when nobody is being heard. And then if there is a few minutes of silence or coming down, use that to slip in your point. Or if somebody else is saying that and there is a gap, you come in. So that is where you need to be on your toes to try and make your move to put in your point in a sentence. I mentioned earlier that you should never take sides in a group discussion. Now suppose you are the general secretary of your college union and the topic given is, should politics be allowed on campus? Now you would definitely have your own views very strongly about the fact that there should be politics on campus because you're already holding a politically backed position in the college union. But that is back in college. Here you're playing a different role. This is just a group discussion topic. You are here to get selected. So what do? You discuss all the aspects about having politics on campus, the good and the bad. Don't take just one side of the topic. You will obviously talk about the problems of having too much politics on campus, and you would know that well because you are at the center of it back in college as a union member. So use that experience to spell it out very well. Now it is not at all necessary that the group will evolve into a consensus towards the end of the given time. Not at all. Most times it does not happen. Not to worry. You need to focus on putting in maximum points into the discussion and discussing the issue, the topic given from different angles. The more the points that have come up in the group and were discussed, taken up and discussed, that is what the evaluators are looking for. They are not looking for a solution to the given topic. If it was a case study or a group exercise, then the faculty, the evaluators would expect that the task would be completed. For example, there's a problem given in a case study and the group in the given time should come up with possible solutions. Solution A, if that doesn't work, a backup plan, solution B, and so on. So that is in a group exercise or a group discussion where a goal is given. Here we are supposed to discuss the topic from all angles. Most likely a consensus may not happen. Not to worry. The quality of the discussion is what is more important. Body language is another very important factor in a group discussion. While you're speaking, you're putting forth a point, put it before the group, not just to the person next to you, or maybe you have a friend in the group, not just to him. Suppose I'm sitting in the group like this, and then imagine that we are in a circle. There are some 14-15 people in the group, and I'm just looking at the person by my side and speaking to him. The others in the group will feel absolutely left out, and they would actually sort of talk about some other point, and you would then get the wrong satisfaction that, oh, I've mentioned my point, but that was just to my neighbor or person just by my side. Most likely the evaluator may not have heard your point at all. Do not look at the invigilator. Look at the group members, address the group members. Never look at the invigilator. The invigilator for the group members is an invisible person. Once he has said, start the discussion, until the moment he says, stop, that is enough. That's the end of the discussion. During the discussion, never have your face resting on your hands like this. That can happen while you are listening to somebody, and maybe let's say 2-3 people are very involved making points, and you sit like this and very admiringly appreciate what is happening there. Or sometimes you're also lost in thought about your own point. So never do that. I always tell students during the discussion, never touch your face with your hands. Some people violently shake their legs while they sit, and sometimes more vigorously when they're thinking or when they're involved. Don't do that. Remember, acceptable group behavior is extremely important. So connect to the group members the right way by engaging in a discussion where it is also about accepting somebody else's viewpoint, adding on to it. So if you add on to what somebody else has said, that is a winning point, because that shows acceptable group behavior, for which you should have good listening skills and the willingness to accept and add on to others' points. Take the opportunity to support a participant who is struggling to make a point if you feel that that point is relevant. If it is not relevant, then no. But if you feel that there is a relevant point which that participant is not able to put to the group, then support that person. For example, you might hear somebody from your side making a point or a statement or starting off on a sentence, but then it gets lost completely because the group is talking about something different. So in the next opportunity, support him by saying that my friend here was saying that, or just point to him and saying he was trying to say that blah blah blah, and add on. Okay, put it in your words also, add on to it, and give him also the opportunity to come in, which means that you are not stealing his point. You are saying that he tried to bring this in and I am adding on to it, kind of. So you're giving credit to somebody and trying to help him bring his point into the group. So you're trying to bring in participation in the group for the benefit of the group, because the group looks good because it's a good point for discussion. You might find that somebody in the group has not been speaking because he is not able to come into the discussion. So towards the end of the given time, you can reach out to that person by saying, let's hear from you, or let us hear what our friend has to say. But that is to be done after you have brought forth most of your points and you are towards the end of the given time. Also keep in mind that most likely this person might not have the confidence to come out with his points, make that kind of statements. So if that person is putting forth a point, then try and support him. Again, you will get points for good group behavior and initiative. Always try to put in your point as briefly as possible, maybe in one, maximum 2 sentences, because by the time in a very vibrant GD, you get into your second sentence, you will get cut. Keep in mind that the airtime that you get to put in points is extremely limited. So that is why I keep saying that your width of knowledge is more important than the depth of knowledge, because let us say you're participating in a GD where there are 10 people and the total time given is 15 minutes. So per person, on an average, you're getting an airtime of just about 1.5 minutes. That is taking the entire duration of the GD into account. So you come in at various points of the GD and you try and put in new points. So you need to be extremely sharp and to the point to put in maximum number of points. Try and put in a point in something like 1 to 2 sentences. Be very brief, because by the time you're into your second sentence in a very vibrant GD, the chances are that you will get cut. And put in points quickly so that you can use your airtime to maximum effect by putting in more points. The time you save is useful for you to bring in more points. The more points you bring in and substantiate it if possible, brings in more marks in your score sheet. I often see students getting into a long explanation, putting in examples and say, so what I was trying to say was, and then he comes to the point. You would not get that kind of an opportunity, never. So put in your point, the explanation comes later if at all you get the opportunity. Don't keep repeating points, because that is not going to get you additional points from the faculty. So be very creative in spelling out your point as quickly as possible. That is the smartness you should show in your GD performance. I said before that when you are starting the discussion, it is always better to set the platform. Suppose the topic is something which is known to everybody. Still, you should be the one, if possible, given the chance, to come in and talk about what this topic is all about. For example, let's say the topic is relating to the Kashmir issue, some aspect of the Kashmir issue. The person who's starting the discussion should go back in history and talk about the origin of the Kashmir issue, talk about Raja Hari Singh accession to India and all that, don't think that everybody knows the story. If you say it, you get points. That is what you want in the group discussion, isn't it? Put in your best performance. A major thing to be careful is never ask questions to fellow participants during the GD. Questions like, how can you say that? Why do you say that? Because you have an opposing point of view. You feel that that point the person is making is not right. So you try and counter him by saying that, on what basis can you say that? Or what are the basis for your statement? You are then giving that person an opportunity to speak on a silver platter. Instead, if you have a counterpoint, convert that into a statement that covers your point, which then converts as a point in the score sheet of the invigilator. Got it? Very important. Because I see this tendency quite a lot among students, particularly in an argument situation, the tendency to ask counter questions. So the moment you ask a counter question, the other person is extremely happy because he is getting the opportunity to speak. Convert your counter questions into point statements. All of you are going for a national level group discussions where people from different states are there. So when you quote examples, if at all you get that opportunity to do that, you cite national examples which people would know. Never cite very local examples which only people from your locality or your state would know. Avoid polarizing statements, avoid controversial statements in a GD. Never make political statements in a GD because you don't know the political affiliations of the invigilator. Always the good idea is to try and be all inclusive, not just in GD but in life also. Try and be all inclusive in a group discussion by accepting diverse viewpoints. It is not necessary that only your views are correct. And that kind of an attitude would foster good group behavior from your side. Please avoid making personal comments or taking yourself as an example, because remember you are a candidate there, isn't it? So don't say things which will reveal negative things about you. A topic which I give to my students for discussion is parents don't understand children. And then it's extremely interesting to see the kind of statements that sometimes students make. They go overboard because some people get that kind of an opportunity. Now is the platform to pour out things which from your heart kind of thing. I had an interest in basketball all along, but then my father never supported me, and that kind of statements never do that. Suppose the topic is about migration of the youth from India to developed countries. Then don't quote examples like there's this person from my college who went to Canada and this was his experience, because that is a personal experience and you're trying to then generalize it. Don't do that. Don't say negative things because it will reflect on your personality. I've often seen students make statements like nothing will work in this country, after all there's India, flippant statements like that. Never do that. Instead, say things like, if we focus a bit more on improving on aspects A, B and C which are hampering the development of our country, and focus also on X and Y, our country is going to grow at a much faster pace. I get questions from students like, can we quote statistics? Yes, you can if you get the opportunity and if it is required. Don't quote statistics for statistics' sake to show off. Because what also happens is that some of the statements that you make inside the group discussion would be followed up by the faculty in the interview. Why did you say this? I heard you making this particular statement. Where did you get this particular statistic that you mentioned in the GD? They can even ask you, why didn't you speak enough in the group discussion? Were all your points spelled out during the given time? What hampered your performance? That can also happen. At the start of the group discussion, the faculty most likely would mention the time given for the discussion. So have a fair idea about the time which has elapsed. I'm not saying that you keep looking at the watch every other minute, but generally have an idea, a feel, okay, you will get a feel that quite some time has elapsed, and then towards the end of the discussion, try and seize the moment to sum up points in the discussion which has happened so far. It is something like the minutes of the meeting at the end of a discussion. And when you're summing up, sum up for the group. not for yourself, because you've already spelled out your points. So when you say, friends, many of us felt that X, Y, Z, these are the points which came up. Some of us, on the other hand, felt that A, B, C, that kind of thing. Sometimes the faculty might ask somebody who has not contributed enough to sum up. When he says sum up, it should be a summing up. If he says, what are your points, what are your contributions, what are your thoughts about the topic, then you can bring in more points. But if it is a summing up, then you should sum up and sum up for the group, on behalf of the group, by bringing in points from all the participants as much as you remember. When one person starts summing up, the others should also chip in. It's not that it is only that person's responsibility to sum up, just because somebody has started the summing up. So others should also chip in. We also said this. You don't have to specify that that person said this and this person said that. We also said that some of the points which came up, you can say some of us felt that, others felt that. All those things are absolutely fine. In some cases, at the end of the group discussion, the faculty might ask you to write a summary of what happened during the GD in about 250 to 300 words. Sometimes the faculty would ask you to write your own views about the given topic. So those two are different situations. One is a summary, which means that you speak about all the points that came up in the discussion. The second is your views, so which means that your points, your thoughts about the given topic. Sometimes the faculty would take the paper where you noted down points during the preparation time given 3 to 5 minutes before the start of the GD. That paper might be taken from you, which would give the faculty an idea about the thought process you had during the preparation time, how you approached the particular topic, how did you generate points, were they logical, how did you present them, did you use all the points that you had noted down, did you use them effectively. So that again would be helpful for the faculty in understanding the kind of approach you had in the group discussion. In a group discussion, there are primarily 3 types of topics which are given. So what are those kind of topics? How do we generate points in a group discussion? How do we maximize the kind of points that we can generate during the preparation time given to us before the start of the group discussion? What if I don't know anything about the topic, then what do I do? All these questions and more are discussed in detail in the next video on group discussion. So keep watching and keep learning. Appreciate your time. Hope my insights were valuable and you benefit from my expertise. Catch the next video in our GD interview mastery series for MBA aspirants. The link is in the description. Stay tuned for more success tips.